Hi, welcome to a video on environmental, social, and governance disclosures. You'll hear this referred to as ESG. It's an exciting new branch of our responsibilities. It relates to the impact on society of the entity, and best practices and regulatory developments related to ESG reporting are coming fast. The goal is to detail practices and policies related to the sustainability of the business operations. This relates to the disclosures relate to environmental, social, and governance factors that affect the company's financial performance, its resource efficiency, and its operating risks. And we're providing information on the impact of the company on society. So why this focus now? Well, one, regulations are coming fast. Regulations designed to create sustainability, create a better society. Also, investor demands. Large institutional and private equity investors, very influential stakeholders, are seeking non-financial key performance indicators as part of their investment decisions. So what's the impact of these ESG disclosures? Well, there's a consumer impact. Consumers are more interested in purchasing from companies that value sustainability. There's a workforce impact. Especially the younger workforce is interested in working with companies that are transparent in their environmental, social, and governance reporting and are leading on diversity and inclusion initiatives. There's a reporting impact. Securities Exchange Commission, the International Financial Reporting Standards, and the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board are working to create standards to support these reporting requirements. And there's a market impact. Pressures being brought by activist groups, rating agencies, scoring and benchmarking of ESG practices and reporting. So let's take a look at what types of things we see in environmental and in social and in governance disclosures. The environmental disclosures, these relate to how business operations impact the environment and vice versa. It has to do with natural resource management, energy, materials, product compliance. The most common of the environmental disclosures is greenhouse gas emissions. Companies disclose the actual emissions of the company, and they compare these to planned reductions. Here's some examples. Coca-Cola reports each year its greenhouse gas emission in total and per liter of product, and its progress towards its goal of a 25% reduction in emissions by 2030 relative to the base year 2015. Disney reports progress in moving towards more renewable energy and away from fuel consumption, water usage, and waste production. And there are many, many more examples, and more are coming every year. Social disclosures. These are the disclosures about how an organization's operations affect its people and its communities. Social considerations such as human rights due diligence, labor practices, and community investments are described. Human capital management policies and procedures are described, including the culture, the training regimen, and the compensation and the fairness thereof. There's a focus on social disclosures, issues of interest to broader stakeholders and society at large. The SEC requires companies to disclose a particular ratio, and that is the ratio of CEO compensation to the median compensation of all the full-time staff. Here's a few examples from a recent year. The average for the S&P 500 overall is 264 to 1. That means that for the S&P 500 as a whole, the CEO makes on average 264 times the median employee. At Starbucks, that number is 1,675 to 1. At McDonald's, that number is 1,939 to 1. At Abercrombie and Fitch, the number is 4,293 to 1. Now, I must remind you that there's a reason that such a relationship exists. Think about the workforce of the average S&P 500 company versus the workforce of Starbucks, McDonald's, Abercrombie and Fitch. Those workforces, they're wonderful jobs, but they tend to be younger people and less skilled workforce required in mass at Starbucks and McDonald's and Abercrombie and Fitch. So that's creating part of those data. Thus, you can look at the data and see what indeed does the CEO make and what indeed does the median employee make, and draw your own conclusions. Other common social disclosures include gender pay ratio, the male pay to the female pay. That one's common. Employee turnover rate at the company, employee injury rate at the company, temporary employee ratio as opposed to full-time employees, employee safety policies, and employee non-discrimination ratios. Governance disclosures. These relate to how a company behaves and governs the entity. The company's actions and policies related to the division of authority within the company are described. The leadership, the transparency, the board diversity, and the ethics. The common disclosures include gender diversity on the board of directors, the independence of the board of directors. This is the ratio of the independent members to the inside members. An independent member has no material interest in the company. Insiders are company's executives and major shareholders, and both groups are valuable for the board. The independent board members will act more in the interests of small shareholders and the broader stakeholders. But the inside board members, while they might not be independent-minded, they do have better inside information that is valuable to the board. So you want both. Other common disclosures include the ethics policies and procedures of the company and the data security policies and procedures. All right. And that's an introduction to ESG reporting. I encourage you to look at a company's ESG reporting. Watch this field evolve if you find it interesting. If you have a passion for these initiatives, this is a exploding part of CPA practice. Become involved in it, express an interest, and become an expert in the topic. Thank you for your attention. And now in the next video, we'll turn our attention to the auditor's report.